Welcome to our series of special podcasts from Business in Vancouver, honoring our recipients of the Chief Financial Officer of the Year Award. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief of BIV. The awards and our podcast are made possible with the partnership as the presenting sponsor of the Chartered Professional Accountants of British Columbia and with the sponsorship of TELUS. We're very grateful for their support, particularly during a quite challenging year. It has been a very challenging year for almost all businesses, and our 6 recipients are emblematic of how financial stewardship has excelled in many instances in our province. Our guests today are 2 of the 6 winners. Other podcasts in the series will feature the other 4. CFO Andrea Johnston of Pinnacle Renewal Energy is the winner in our large public company category, and Amy Lam of the Chartered Public Accountants of British Columbia is the winner in our publicly accountable category. Congratulations to both of you. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kirk.
Listen, I'll start with you, Amy. It's been an extraordinary year, right? Nothing like we've ever seen. Help me understand what you've learned.
Well, the pandemic hit us right at the time when it was at our financial year end, and in March. So, and as we know, the world basically flipped upside down in 2 weeks. So what we learned was that we needed to adapt very quickly and reflect the current environment in our business plans. So, for example, we quickly reviewed our operational plan and adjusted our financial forecast so that we have a good idea of where we are financially, so that we can adjust our expenditures to make sure we preserve our cash flow. And again, casting our minds back to March, when there was significant uncertainty, I think preservation of cash flow was paramount to ensuring that we survive financially intact through this pandemic. So, that's what we learned, was that we really need to have a good handle on our finances and where we are financially. And then the second thing we learned was how important cultural capital that we already have with our staff really helped us work so effectively remotely. So we closed our office, I remember March 17th, and we had our teams working remotely like within days. So the collaborative and transparent workplace culture that we do have in place allow us to work successfully while working from home. And we've been working really hard to maintain that culture, even though we can't get together anymore. So we're trying to keep the same social events, even though we're doing them virtually now. So for example, we held our annual summer social this past summer, although virtually, and and everyone seemed to really enjoy that. So, but yeah, we're really paying attention to that.
And Andrea, walk me through what you think you've learned.
It goes without saying that one of the key things we've learned during this period is the importance of communications. And of course, we've all had to learn new means of communication. We don't have the opportunity to get together internally as a team very often at all, and certainly with our external stakeholders. And during a time of so much transition, change, new risk profiles, we have to use the new methods effectively, learn how to use them effectively, and use them even more frequently. And throughout our careers in business, we hear about the importance of communication. But if I think about the things that we've come across during COVID, it starts first and foremost with our employees in terms of safety. And we run a number of different wood pellet production facilities in the US and Canada, including some in Alabama. And we had to communicate safety measures across cultures, and not only to keep our employees' safety within different different regulatory regimes, but making sure to be able to continue to deliver to our utility customers who are very dependent on our products, no matter what's going on in the world. So communications with employees internally, certainly my own finance team, as Amy mentioned, we're learning how to communicate with people that we used to be able to just lean across to another desk and collaborate quite easily. Now you have to sometimes plan your collaboration or again, look to new technical tools to be able to do that. We had to collaborate with and communicate in a different way with our bankers. With the risks that come up during COVID and the importance on cash management, we had two major capital projects underway. We're building a new facility in Demopolis, Alabama, and a new facility in High Level, Alberta. They were certainly very keen to understand what was happening with our cash flow with our business, but also what the impact is on our ability to complete our construction sites on time and on budget. So we very quickly had to get new forecasts together, but also reach out to a large syndicate of lenders and talk to them about what was happening and collaborate with them on an amendment to our credit facility to make sure that during COVID, we de-risked the business for our shareholders and our stakeholders so that we could continue on with the growth capital plans.
Yeah.
And I could go on, certainly communication with customers who used to come and visit us and be able to see our facilities, talk to senior management, communication. Certainly, I work very heavily in investor relations. And many of them were concerned with what they saw in March in the capital markets, and then really wanted to understand the risks in the business. So I've spent the last few months just constantly on Zoom, Ring Central, all of these different methods, and really staying in touch with those stakeholders so that they would understand where we're going.
So really good detailed answers from both of you on this one. Let me ask you, Amy, to start. When a pandemic hits, though, how does a CFO have to lean in?
So I think, Kirk, you alluded to it in your introduction. I think during times like this, financial stewardship is extremely important because, it's the lifeblood of a business. And if you don't have clear visibility on what your financial position is, you really don't know what you can do and what you cannot do. So, as I said earlier, because we got a clear picture of where we are financially, we were able to, for example, provide support to our members by delaying the collection of dues. We did that. We deferred the collection by 3 months. But in order to do that, we really need to understand, like, again, from a cash flow perspective, can we afford to do that? In terms of from a financial perspective, definitely really need to have your information quicker. And I also feel that, again, and I'm sure, the same with Andrea, as a CFO, you're just in charge of such a wide array of portfolio. So, the safety plans fall on my portfolio, sounds like the same with Andrea. So, since March, we have updated our COVID safety policy and safety plan 3 times already, just to reflect what are the new guidance coming out of the provincial government, the provincial health officers' guidance. So that, again, being led out of our people and culture department. But as I said, that falls under a CFO's portfolio. So, it's
so you've redone your safety plan 3 times. Can I ask you, how many times have you redone your budget?
We've redone our budget twice since March.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That was a tough time to have a year end, I guess, right?
Yeah, but again, you have to, another thing I've learned is you can't be married to a plan or a blueprint, right? Because things are just changing so fast. And so you need to incorporate the environment into your plan like as quickly as possible. Your budget gets stale dated very quickly in the current environment, and you just need to pivot just as quickly.
Yeah. Andrea, tell me a little bit about how a CFO leans in at an unusual time like this.
So certainly financial forecasting and other tools of financial resilience. So we went through very methodically all of our decision points about things like levels of inventory to maintain and various investments to make sure and again preserve capital and thus also approach the banks, as I mentioned. A key contribution I think the CFO can really lean into and make at times like this is in the realm of enterprise risk management as a whole. Mm-hmm. And my team works with all of the other departments on looking at the risk to them. We ship all of our products for export to Europe, the UK, and Asia. So I worked with our shipping and logistics team to really understand during a time of COVID, what's going to happen with shipping companies. We heard of ships that were stranded out because nobody would let ships come into port for risk of infection. We looked at our customers. We provide very few sales throughout the year, but they're worth tens of millions of dollars. So customers that we felt were very creditworthy when we entered into a contract in this whole world where there was a dramatic financial shift, we had to quickly go back and look at our process of customer counterparty credit review and so forth throughout the whole enterprise risk management process and provide that leadership and visibility to the rest of the team.
I suppose I should ask you then, it sounds like that was a bit of a surprise, but what has most surprised you, Andrea, in all of this time?
What's most surprised me, I must say, is on a good side, is that people did adapt and adjust. And for the most part, people, be it employees working from home, leaders continued to provide leadership and adapt their work styles. Our suppliers have very quickly adapted when we've made new requests of them. And our teams, which these are fellows working in an industrial setting, they've adapted to working with masks on throughout all of their shifts and making sure and following protocols. So we talk a lot in business about change management and how difficult it is to make change. If you'd asked leaders a year ago, could you imagine a world where your whole accounting team has to do year end from home? They said, no, we need 2-3 years to plan ahead and adapt. But we're planning our year-end audit completely remotely this year.
Wow. Yeah. Amy, what surprised you the most?
I would have to agree with Andrea. I think how quickly, particularly on the technology front, again, prior to the pandemic, we certainly had projects in the pipeline in terms of technology adoption, as well as looking outwards at our members and the various businesses, that our members support. And we're keeping our, the pulse on technology adoption. BC has not always been the quickest for adopting technology. But with the pandemic, I think the need to adopt technology has really accelerated. And I've been really pleasantly surprised at how well businesses have adopted technology. Again, I think to Andrea's point, a year ago, 2 years ago, if you were to look at the adoption curve in BC and the business community, you wouldn't think that it would be so quick. But for the most part, I think that businesses have been able to to adapt and implement the technology needed to deploy a new way of doing things. And that is the same with CPA BC. So within our own organization, I have been really pleased with how quickly we've been able to deploy our technology. So just to give you an example, one of the big in-person events that we do every year is on-campus, in-person recruiting events, where we go out, talk to students about the potential of CPA as a career, etc. Well, this year we were able to source a new platform and able to do the entire career fair virtually. So I think from beginning to end, from the time we were able to source the platform to deploying the technology, took us 3 weeks.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
Andrea, I'll ask both of you this. We'll start with you, Andrea. What was your proudest moment in this time?
I think the proudest moment in this time is within my team. We determined that we needed to make a change in what some of the team members were doing to adapt to the high level of growth that we have and more expansion south of the border. So we were able to give thoughtful communication to people that were being disrupted. They were remaining with the company, but in different roles. And then be able to successfully onboard into new roles, the new people. And I really feel for, you read articles about students starting a new job remotely. We've now onboarded 5 different people remotely. And it does take extra care and attention. But I'm really proud at how both from a team feeling perspective, we've been able to bring them on board. And then certainly very much from a technical advancement and being able to bring them up the curve on their contribution to our process.
Good. Amy, what about you? Proudest moment in this time?
I have to say, my proudest moment is how well and quickly my teams came together. So my portfolio is corporate services, so includes IT, people and culture, finance, data analytics, and so our teams are the teams that support the rest of the organization as they deliver on their operational goals and objectives. And I have to say kudos to my team. They really pitched in and did what was necessary, regardless of what their normal day-to-day role was. A communication team also in my portfolio. So for example, they dropped whatever they were doing and then quickly developed a COVID resource webpage on our website for our members as well as for members of the public. Our IT team, when we had to work remotely, our IT director made sure that everyone had the equipment to work, including, there's a commitment for you, running down to Best Buy to make sure that, we had all the cell phones needed for everyone to stay connected, so they don't have to use their home phones and landlines.
Yeah, I think it was like a Boxing Day sale down there.
Yes. I was just so impressed with the commitment by my teams, as I said, to do what was needed, regardless of how messy it may look. So.
Yeah, I asked both of you earlier about what you'd learned, and you answered about your operation. So I want to ask each of you now, what did you learn about yourselves? Amy?
I learned that as a leader, we really need to be adaptable and agile. Again, thinking in terms of planning, even 3 years in the current environment seem a long time because of the tremendous amount of uncertainty involved. And so, so as a leader, I've really learned that you really need to be agile, like almost need to take a pulse check, like a month to month, to see
Yeah.
where things are at and if things are still on track.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I learned is, and to be open and base decisions on data. So as I said, we have a data analytics team that reports to me, because I've learned that, again, these are really unprecedented times. So historic knowledge, experience, trends may not be applicable, or even relevant. So you really need to rely on data as you're deploying, technology or programs to see, is it really working?
Sure. Andrea, tell me a little bit about what you learned about yourself in this period.
I'm a pretty busy person with lots of direct and indirect reports and internal and external stakeholders. And when you're trying to get a lot done, it's pretty easy to rely on the keyboard. And with the even more technology, it's easier. And that stroll down the hall to sit down with somebody and really understand what they meant by their latest communication started to get, obviously we couldn't do that. And to the extent you have to schedule those interactions, they were becoming less prevalent. So I really, it emphasized for me personally the importance of getting face time, even if it's over technology, to understand what somebody else means, and then make sure that I'm communicating most effectively. Because I was trying to communicate organizational change, and you can't do that through a well-crafted memo as effectively.
No.
And I think another thing I really learned personally, and we have good conversations about it in my team, is I've got employees who have young children who weren't in daycare, soccer camp, or anything all summer. And so I watched them, and I watched myself on how do you manage your workday when you're sitting in, as I am, in my dining room. They're maybe sitting in a small apartment with 2 kids that they're trying to contain in another bedroom. So really, how do we adapt our work days, be more flexible, so that we can get work done, but also maintain balance? It's pretty easy. When I get an email late at night, I can sit down at my desk and get back to work. But maybe that's not the most effective thing to do.
Yeah. I'll stay with you here on this one, Andrea. I mean, we're talking now in mid-October. What's possible to predict, and what do you think isn't possible to predict now in the year ahead?
Well, it's interesting because, of course, we're all, when is there going to be a vaccine? When are we going to be back in the office? Are people going back to the office, and will they go back full time? What is the future of the workplace and how we work together? So I think a lot of those questions, people have started to say, relax, we don't know those. It's very hard to predict. So control what you can control. So what we're working hard to predict is how will we get year end done in February, with assuming that our auditors will have to go to our plants, but they'll have to work very effectively to not bring any disease from an urban center into a very remote community. So we're just carefully planning ahead what needs to get done, and we do have good predictable financial results now that we've gone through that risk management process and de-risk. And so just planning ahead for business as usual and planning on how to keep people motivated, how to celebrate successes and recognize individuals.
Yeah, tall order. Amy, what do you think is predictable now and unpredictable now?
Well, I think, unpredictable would be, when will we get a vaccine and all of that. But I think, what is predictable is that the pandemic has profoundly changed how we view a work day, how we evaluate the performance of our staff, and how we work. So we are already looking ahead and preparing that, I don't know, you can call it the new normal, the next normal, whatever the phrase people are using, that there we will have some portion of our staff who would want to work from home some portion of the week on a more permanent basis. So, compared to pre-pandemic, I would say 90% of our staff worked in the office. So I'm gonna say that that's gonna be a safe bet that we will have people who would want to work, as I said, permanently some portion of the week from home. And so how do we prepare for that? How do we take learnings that we are that we have gained from the current experience so that we can take that forward with us? Some of the technology, I mean, like, honestly, we've had Zoom for 2 years, but we've never used it as much as we have in the last 6 months.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's just an example. So how do we take learnings that we have gained during this time forward, so that that we can still be effective when, I don't know, like, let's say 25% of our workforce on any given day is not in the office.
Yeah,
So
exactly. I'm going to ask the last question of both of you again, and give me as candid an answer as you can. Do you like your job more than you did before the pandemic, Amy?
I have to say yes and no. I think certainly I have not felt as impactful as I currently do in all the years of my career. I mean, as I said, because things are changing so quickly, and I really feel the responsibility and the impact that I'm having on the organization. But it is challenging. I mean, I do miss going to the office, although I am in my office today. I do miss going to the office. I do miss seeing people. It's not the same on Zoom. And there's, I mean, no doubt there are more stresses now than before, right? So.
Yeah. And Andrea?
Yeah, so for me, I guess I have friends that ask me, gee, haven't you been doing this a lot of years? Aren't you you kind of bored by it? Are you ready for something else? And I always say one of the things I love about my job at this stage is you're helping develop and coach and mentor a lot of other people. And I really enjoy that about my job, and help identifying people with potential. And it's definitely much easier to do that when you're working in the same space and able to get together. And I do really enjoy talking about Pinnacle and what we do, and getting out and engaging with investors, bringing bank analysts to sites and showing off what we do, because we are helping with a decarbonized world. So I really miss that part. What I do like, though, is from working from home, sometimes when you're in the office, you've got a deadline, but you're waiting for other people to get things done. And now I can head out and go for a walk in the middle of the day, knowing that I can look down at my phone, oh, it's come in, head back to the desk and get things done. So I've personally really enjoyed the work flexibility. I have a relatively long commute from a Vancouver perspective, and I've enjoyed having that time back for me personally, and again, putting less carbon into the atmosphere.
Very nice. Good answers. Great answers, and a great conversation. I want to thank both of you for joining me today, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
Our other podcasts in the series are going to feature our other 4 winners: Simon Bodymore of TaskTop Technologies, Greg Gutmanis of Diversified Royalty Corporation, Hitesh Kazari of the BC Children's Hospital Foundation, and Don Matheson of UBC Properties Trust. We're going to have a modest in-person event for the winners October 27th at the Terminal City Club, and invite you to watch it online or at our BIV.com site. I'm Kirk LaPointe, publisher and editor-in-chief of Business in Vancouver. Thanks so much for joining us today.